Making one of those semi-awkward videos where I really don't have a subject. Yep, nobody's making much in the way of videos. So the conversation is about thin, but it's also, you know, I think it's getting more difficult to, bring up the same old crap. And so I think that's where, maybe that's a good thing. But anyway, so Luddite made a very strange video I haven't really figured out how to react to yet. Sort of a lament, and I think we all can do that a little bit. There's points in our lives we can remember where it was just too stupid. Life was just too stupid. And, there was just, I use the term rude to beauty. I like that. There's a point where something was just too rude to beauty. Something too precious was just treated too badly. And you just say, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. This doesn't make any sense. It's just a very personal thing. And, those things, obviously, they have been, obviously I've taken them more seriously than other people in terms of trying to resolve that point in psychology where you have those points, and they seem very clear. So again, I can't find any distortion or perversion in perspective. They're quite legitimate statements of emotional termination. You just say no. So anyway, but that's where I would just say I can't quite understand how Luddite converts this back into gameplay and says, oh well, moving on, and get caught right back up in it, and the same old chase. But just on that subject, I do think of these different metaphors. The sort of the Dorian Gray metaphor, which is sort of like the roller coaster metaphor, which is sort of like our analogy. But this idea that if all the misfortunes of your life, the hangovers, like say you go drinking and you have the fun, and the hangover is dumped on some other party, sympathetic party, don't make it somebody you hate, but somebody you could actually care for, you'd feel very bad about how trivial the fun was for seeing the unpleasantness that's being imposed for your fun. And somehow we don't have the same perspective for ourselves. We don't care for ourselves quite as much as we care for others, which is an interesting psychological phenomenon. But in my opinion, it reveals something. It reveals that there is psychology at play, that we do get caught up in the game, and that the addiction does pervert our judgment, almost like the heroin addict who, you could argue, was not born a murderer. He wasn't born a mugger, wasn't born somebody who could whap people over the head with a brick, but the power of the addiction, the power of the need, can create that depth of passion and necessity. And that's kind of maybe what happens to people when they get caught up in the game. It's like they're at the slot machine and they've invested in it, in the sense that they've put a lot of money in, and they just know it's going to hit any minute. And somebody's saying closing time, and they just don't want to hear it. And they certainly can't see it because their focus is too much on the payoff that they've paid for. That's the other part of this. Obviously we can do this talking about what makes life meaningful, and how starved you have to be to really enjoy the food that life provides. At different points in my life, I guess I would say, yeah, I was hungrier, and so I'd settle for something that wasn't charming enough. And there's just less settling ability as I get less and less hungry. You're less interested in any food will do. And that's a kind of another one of these psychological mechanisms. Clearly people accept an awful lot of crap for their entertainment. And again, we're just talking about humans being entertained in the end. There isn't anything else going on here. It's just cycles of entertainment. You watch your TV show, so to speak. You have your children, or you have your adventures. You go traveling and meeting new people, or whatever your little thing is. But it's just your show. It's the show you like to watch. It's the life you live or create for yourself that you call the good part. And for your entertainment, you pay the price, for many people, of having a job that is quite unsatisfying, burdensome, irritating, something you have to learn how to survive, not just tolerate. Sometimes it's just that bad. You got to find some way to get through it, so you can watch your shows. You pay your price so you can get your little bit of the your opportunity on the weekend to watch your big screen movie or something and have your bucket of popcorn. And in those kind of contexts, viewed that way, it does seem just so horribly silly, futile and stupid. So much of this, it just doesn't say anything meaningful. It's just, cheap. It's cheap. It's tacky. It's inadequate. I believe I may have forgotten my earplugs. Yeah, I gotta go walk all the way back. It's clever of me, right? Oh, I am a clever guy sometimes. Can't live without them, though, now. Oh, they're in there. Never mind. Yeah, okay. I'm not remembering things very well. I'll blame too much penicillin in 1 month. Yeah, it's rotting me. But whatever. It's keeping me walking, talking, and, I can hear. So it's working for that. Anyway, back to the subject. Lamenting. So yeah, you don't want to diminish the glorious parts, but I mean, when you really do dissect them, they're not made of much. They're always built out of some sort of, the ego crap, and somehow proving yourself. Defend. It's like you're looking for a a get out of failure card. And that's your whole life adventure. You go through all these failures to get your get out of failure card. Alright, I'll edit out the death part. Yeah, near-death experience. Anyway, damn bugs. So anyway, wherever the hell I was, lamenting. Yeah, it's a nice place to lament by Lament Log. It's a very lamenty kind of log. Kind of just screams to you, this is too much. It's too irritating. It's too obnoxious. So anyway, it's an important word, that 200 word, because people use it, it's too bad, and it's not really too bad, but you'll accept it. It really is an important thing to understand about psychology, is the fact that it likes to get on rolls and just keep rolling. And I suppose the counter argument could be made that once things stop, you don't want to start again. That's for sure. But I think on balance, if you're going to argue where the better, more reasonable, calmer, less perverted perspective would likely be the one that isn't moving very fast. Because the faster you're going, the less you're seeing, the less you're noticing. The more in the game you are, the more your ego's driving from a state of deprivation, a desperate need. The less careful and the less observant you're going to be. And you'll find any excuse for almost anything. And it's important to understand that that's one of the conditions under which we live. It isn't so simple as your brain makes a rational declaration of this is the thing to do, and it's rational, and you do the rational thing. That's not how we function. We function sometimes quite desperately without any real calculation of purpose and function and utility. So much of, I can look back at my life and I can find tons, decades even, of just lost time where I just got from one day to another as comfortably as possible, and that's all I did. There was no other mission statement. It was, do what you have to do to squeak by, to get through the next day where you squeak by. And, not that I'm not still doing that to some extent, but, I have more purposeful adventures now. I have more purposeful work in terms of attempting to converse with the other humans. It just wasn't a practical possibility in the past. So, I can have a broader mission statement. And, back in the past, I did try writing, and like I said, it was just, it still hasn't happened, just because I guess there was always a block in trying to put this in words, deliberate words, because my own scrutiny would keep saying how people aren't going to understand that sentence, and they're not going to understand that sentence, and you keep trying to figure out how do you say it so anybody can understand it, because you're just going to keep reacting to the negativity. I don't know. And it's also the whole writing thing for me. It's just I apply way too much scrutiny. If I have time to think, then it's my nature to be rather perfectionist, and writing just brings that out. There isn't much evidence of it in anything else I do anymore, but it is sort of my nature. It's the nature of my psychology anyway. Somehow I've allowed it to not be part of my lifestyle, but it's certainly part of my thinking style and how I define something done deliberately. Anyway, probably enough mush. Maybe I'll play the end of the Luddite video, make a video later. I don't know if there's a point. I just found it just seemed very you've just made my argument for me, Luddite. Because, newsflash, there's a lot of unacceptable going on in the world every second. It's just tons and tons of it. It's just unacceptable. And if you had to look at it all and itemize it and put in a book, you'd recognize that the price is too high. way, 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 way too high. We're not even close to doing what needs to get done to do this bullshit. Anything else but a catastrophic loss. So anyway, have a weird day. Cloudy, breezy, sunny, eeky, buggy. Anyway, till next time. And such, so forth and whatnot. Mostly.